What would you do if you worked for 10 years to buy your first home, only to have your own parents convince you to sign it into their names, only to hand it over to your brother as his wedding gift? Most people would break under that betrayal. I didn't. I walked away quietly, waited patiently, and when the moment came, I struck with precision. What happened next not only reclaimed my house, but exposed my family's lies and left them with nothing. Stay with me until the end, because this story will change the way you look at loyalty, family, and revenge forever. My name is Isabella Cruz, and for as long as I can remember, I have dreamed of one thing: a home of my own, not just four walls and a roof, but a place that felt safe. A place I could walk into at the end of the day and know, this is mine. I grew up in a small Arizona town in a family where appearances meant everything. My father, Ricardo, was a stern man with a booming voice, respected in the community but feared inside our home. My mother, Marisol, was quieter but no less powerful. Her weapon wasn't her voice, it was her silence. And then there was my younger brother, Daniel. To them, Daniel could do no wrong. He was their golden son. I was the dutiful daughter. I got good grades, worked part-time jobs through college, skipped vacations, lived on hand-me-downs, and funneled every spare dollar into my savings. By the time I was 29, I had scraped together enough for a down payment. It was the proudest moment of my life, until it was. The day I signed the papers, my father insisted we put the house under his and my mother's names. "It's for legal reasons," he said. "Tax benefits, protection." My mother nodded in agreement, her expression unreadable. I wanted to argue, but I didn't. Children are trained to trust their parents, and love makes you blind, so I signed. I told myself it was still my house. After all, I was the one who had worked for it, paid for it, sacrificed for it. But 6 months later, I learned how wrong I was. We were sitting around the kitchen table when my father slid a folder across the surface. He didn't look at me when he spoke. His voice was flat, rehearsed. "It's done. The house belongs to your brother now. It's his wedding gift." My stomach dropped. My mother sat beside him, nodding along like the executioner's assistant. And Daniel, my brother, stood in the doorway, smug, his fiancée's hand in his. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I simply pushed the papers back toward them and whispered one word: "Congratulations." Then I walked away. The weeks after felt like living in a fog. Every memory of childhood, every bedtime story, every birthday candle, every word of family turned sour. Betrayal doesn't stab you once, it echoes. I rented a small apartment across town. I worked, I saved, I tried to stitch myself back together, but the wound stayed raw. Until the calls started. At first, I ignored them. My mother's number would flash on my phone, followed by my father's, then Daniel's. I let them go to voicemail, but eventually, curiosity got the better of me. "Your brother, having trouble with the mortgage," my mother said. "We need your help, just until things stabilize." Another message came, my father's voice stern but cracked. "Stop being selfish, he's family." Family, that word once sacred, was hollow now. But I listened, quiet, patient, and then I began to plan. Revenge isn't rage, rage is loud, revenge is math. I started digging. County records, property filings, bank liens. It didn't take long to see the truth. Daniel wasn't just struggling, he was drowning. He had refinanced twice in 6 months, bleeding cash to impress his new wife, hosting parties in the living room I once dreamed would be mine, parking leased luxury cars in the driveway I had paid for. The house I built brick by brick with years of sacrifice, was teetering on the edge of foreclosure. And that's when I saw my opening. I hired a lawyer, a real one this time. We traced everything: the original purchase, the fraudulent title transfer, the trail of debt Daniel left behind. The truth was simple: my brother had no equity. My parents had gifted him not a home, but a ticking time bomb. And I still had money, not much, but enough, because years of discipline can't be stolen overnight. So I waited. I let the foreclosure process crawl forward, notice by notice, warning by warning. I let Daniel sweat, let my parents panic. And when the bank prepared to seize the house, I stepped out of the shadows. The auction was small, almost invisible. A handful of bidders, a quiet courthouse room. Daniel didn't even show. He was too busy convincing his wife that the maxed-out credit cards and bounced checks were temporary. I walked in calm as stone and bought my house back, for less than I had paid the first time. Clean, legal, untouchable. I didn't call my parents, I didn't call my brother, I waited. And then the phone rang. It was a Sunday when my mother's voice cracked through the line. "They're taking the house, you have to help your brother, please." I told her I would come over. That evening, I drove up the familiar driveway. My porch light glowing like a lighthouse against the dark. Daniel opened the door, his face pale, frantic. My parents sat at the kitchen table, the same table where they had stripped me of everything months earlier. I dropped the keys onto the wood. "I bought it," I said simply. They blinked at me, uncomprehending. "The bank auction, it's mine again." My brother's face twisted first into disbelief, then rage. My mother's eyes filled with tears, not guilt but fear. And my father, for the first time in my life, his voice was almost a whisper. "You planned this." I leaned against the doorframe, letting the silence suffocate them. "I didn't fight when you stole it, I walked away, but this house was never yours to give." Daniel shouted, bargained, threatened, but it was useless. His debts were his own. His name carried no weight anymore. Legally, he had 30 days to vacate. I gave him 10. Watching him pack boxes in the living room, where I once imagined hosting holidays, was the purest justice I'd ever tasted. My parents hovered like ghosts, deflated, forced to choose between their golden son and the daughter they had betrayed. They chose silence, just as I once had. The day they left, I stood in the doorway. Daniel shoved past me, muttering curses he didn't have the courage to say aloud. My parents followed, older somehow, smaller. At the end of the driveway, my mother turned. Her voice was thin, almost pleading. "You didn't have to do this." I met her gaze. "You taught me how." Now I live in my house again. My furniture, my keys, my walls. It's different though, quieter. The air feels heavier with what was lost, but cleaner with what I reclaimed. People ask me if I regret it, if I wish things had gone differently. No, because betrayal is a wound, but revenge is the scar that proves you healed yourself. Every time I turn the key in my front door, I remember the lesson they carved into me. Blood doesn't make family, loyalty does. And I am loyal only to myself now. So tell me, if your own parents stole the home you worked your whole life for, would you forgive them? Or would you do what I did and take it back piece by piece until justice was yours? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story of betrayal, patience, and sweet revenge, don't forget to subscribe to Taylee's Between Time for more unforgettable stories that will stay with you long after they're told.